Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the conversation regarding localization and censorship is really starting to heat up. And we knew this was going to happen. This has been happening for weeks now, ever since the whole Jamie Marchi thing happened and people lost their mind over that and her censoring manga and changing up the entire story and all this with anime. It was a big deal. It still is a big deal to this day. And now we have an article here from Bounding Into Comics with something very interesting from the localization team over at Bandai Namco. Apparently, according to the headline, it says Bandai Namco localization teams admit that they order Japanese devs to censor their female character designs. We tell them that the cleavage is a bit too exposed or the skirt is a bit too short. Now, really quick, ladies and gentlemen, it is very obvious that this has been happening for a long time. I mean, if you didn't know about this, then you've probably been living under a rock. This has been happening for a long time. We know they've been doing this for a long time. Japanese games, Japanese content is often censored here in the US for the most ridiculous reasons, and usually they have some form of social justice attached to it, or the content might just be too extreme given the current climate of today, you know? But I do find it very interesting that they're openly admitting this, knowing the current landscape that's going on right now with localization. So let's get into this article, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. Like the video to push us out into YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing to my manga channel. The links are in the description box below in my link tree. I would love to see you there. So it says, let's be frank, there is something fundamentally broken in an artistic medium when those in charge of its shepherding it has begun to proudly censor and boast about censoring a given artist's personal work. Sadly, such is the case for the medium of video games, as the localizers responsible for bringing Bandai Namco's Japanese titles to the Western world. Puritanical censorship of said works, particularly any sexy female designs therein, has not just become common, but it also has become the industry norm. Now, it is sadly the case, okay? And we've been seeing this time and time again. Look at the females that are not translated, right? Look at the females that are coming out from our own work, our own entertainment. Every single one of them are butt-ass ugly for the most part. Every single one of them are covered up to the max. Every single one of them was made by someone who is completely allergic to good-looking people. They don't like good-looking people because these people are ugly either outside or on the inside. It's one of the two. And they don't like to portray overly sexualized or overly pretty characters. They hate femininity. They don't like it. Femininity to them is a bad thing. They want women to be masculine. They want women to be as basic as possible. So stuff like this, like what you're seeing on screen, would never fly in a Western game, ever. The developers, 9 times out of 10, are going to make something that's going to be more closer to current day Lara Croft in Call of Duty, where it's just completely butt-ass ugly. Or Mary Jane in Spider-Man, for example. Like, that's what they're trying to do with female characters. And it's really sad, man, because the Japanese, they love doing their female characters the right way. But unfortunately, once it comes over here to the West, it gets completely ruined by our own idiots that like to run things over here. So it says this unfortunate fact was recently confirmed by representatives from both Bandai Namco and Bandai Namco Europe during a recent interview given to the Japan Times. Matthias Sina asked for their thoughts on a local round of discourse surrounding English language localizers' ongoing self-important butchering of Japanese media. Bandai Namco Europe senior localization manager Frank Gentry offered his support to this cultural imperialism and praised just how effective their censorious efforts have been, particularly regarding how Japanese game developers dress their heroines. God, it must be terrible to be the Japanese and try to release a game here in the US, knowing that you're gonna have to censor half of the shit in the original game because the US is so damn sensitive and so ridiculous with their demands that they are so focused on what a female character in the game looks like. You know, it's funny to me. They love to complain about the fact that, oh, everybody's so focused on females not being ultra pretty by modern standards or typical standards, and all people can think about is sexualizing their character. And yet these people, when they see a sexy female character in a game, they lose their mind and they do everything possible to make them not sexy. So it's okay for them to care about what a female character looks like, but God forbid anybody else cares about what a female character looks like, then we're overreacting. We're the bigots. We're the ones that are going crazy, but not them. No. They're allowed to have an opinion. They're allowed to have feelings towards female characters in video games. It says, we tell them that the cleavage is a bit too exposed or the skirt is a bit too short, said Gentry. Before, they weren't very flexible, but they become more proactive on such subjects. I wish they would have stayed not so flexible. The moment you give these crazy people an inch, they're going to take multiple miles from you every chance they get. And again, I'm sure the Japanese have done it because they're trying to get their game out there more readily available. I get that. From a financial standpoint, I understand. But unfortunately, the cultural impact of that and the overall artistic integrity of the video game or whatever is trying to be translated or localized is just going to go down the gutter. The moment the US gets their hands on it, it's going to go straight to the trash bin. Europe too. Europe has the same exact woke ideologies, unfortunately, and they're going to do everything they can to try to downplay Japanese media, and they're going to try to westernize it. And it's unfortunate. It really is, because people are trying to get away from the Western entertainment as it is right now, and they're going towards Japanese media to find their solace. But unfortunately, when they have to read it in English or watch it in English, then it gets completely destroyed by the same people who you're trying to avoid in the first place. It's unfortunate. It says, yet despite the brazen admission from the company's European arm, Bandai Namco Localization project manager Pierre Froget still believes, without a hint of irony, that localizers are working to ensure that the player, whichever country they're from, should understand and feel the same thing as someone playing in the original language. That is bullshit. That is bullshit. That's literally impossible. You know how I know it's impossible? Because you have a million different localizers that are all coming out and literally admitting that they are changing content, changing entire dialogue scenes, changing what it means to have that certain particular sentence. All you got to do is change a couple words and an entire sentence will mean something totally different. And they're doing this multiple times within one single anime or one single manga. They do it often. So you cannot tell me that you're going to have the same feeling reading about this story or watching this story as you would if Japanese was your original language. That is quite impossible given the current kind of people that we have in this business. It says efforts have been made to understand the needs of the English-speaking world. He noted, yeah, those needs are to make sure that you understand all progressive policies, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it means. It says further, the project manager revealed that the most common changes asked for by Western localizers related to such topics as alcohol, politics, or religion. Shocker. Why is anybody shocked by that? Why should you change any of those things? If they're in the story and they're adherent to the story, they're meant to be there, leave them in there. It's different if it's some random fucking content that wasn't actually supposed to be in there. But unfortunately, what they do is when they play with stuff like this, especially politics and religion, what ends up happening is the localizers completely twist the words of what's happening in the scene. And then what ends up happening is people get a false idea of what that scene actually meant. So really what you're doing is you're reading and you're watching a certain segment of that scene based in their own political or religious views. And it's unfortunate, again, because it's going to ruin the entire meaning behind the scene 9 times out of 10. Offering up an example, when there are people dressed in black boots and big leather coats in Europe, that could bring the mind to a Nazi uniform. From there, Forget closed out the time with Cena by reaffirming his belief that Bandai Namco localization efforts, at least those he has overseen, were all done in service of helping to create connections to Japanese culture and help Europeans discover its depth while respecting both the game and the player. I highly doubt, again, highly doubt that these people have any respect towards the player, let alone the game. I just don't believe it. I don't, because you cannot have the respect for the game and completely change the game as it was seen fit. You know that you're changing the game. You know that you're changing the context of the story. You know you're changing certain dialogues. You know you're changing all that stuff. So if you inherently know you're changing all this stuff, you then can say that you are inherently for the source material and you're trying to respect the original work and all that. You can't say that because you don't respect it, and it's proven by the way that you're acting with the actual story when you localize it. So we're going to keep having these issues. I'm going to keep bringing it to light because we need to keep talking about it, ladies and gentlemen. These people want the conversation to go away. Don't let the conversation go away. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.